Hey guys, so I'm going to go through this offer from Betano. It's a $1,500 risk-free bet offer, but it's slightly different than some of the other risk-free bet offers that we have on the site. So I'm going to just go through each step of this offer, show you how you can lock in your $750. This is obviously quite a big offer. You're going to need a sizable bankroll, at least $4,500 in order to get through it. Okay, let's get stuck into it. So Betano are offering a risk-free bet up to $1,500. You put your first bet down up to $1,500, and if you lose, then they refund you with a bonus bet, which is essentially a free bet that you have to use within 3 days. Okay, so here's the offer here. We've got some of the key terms: deposit $10 or more, put it down in a bet within the first 72 hours, and then if you lose, they give you a free bet up to the same amount, and that free bet is valid for 72 hours as well. Okay. Now, there's a key term here that you have to use the bet credit on parlays with, it says 2 or more selections here, but actually on the offer here, it says 3 or more selections. So we're going to assume that it's 3 or more just to be sure. Okay, cool. So it's also worth noting that Betano also have a 100% up to $500 deposit match sports offer. Okay, so that's this one here. We do also have a guide for that. Okay, so the guide is in our list. It's not as good as this one here. Okay, so this one is lower value. It's $420 locked in. This one's $750. Also with this one, you kind of have to wager quite a bit in order to unlock that balance as cash, which can just take a long time. Sometimes they can limit your bets as well, and you have to place a lot of bets in order to get through this wagering requirement. So generally, we recommend you do this offer here if you have the bankroll for it. Okay, if you have the $4,500, you can do this one. However, if you have a lower bankroll, say you've got $2,250, just half your deposit amounts, very simple. Just go in with $750 and you'll make $375 roughly guaranteed profit. Okay, let's go through the steps. So number one, you would open a Betano account, click the link through to Betano, and as always, log your deposit in the profit tracker. So let's go ahead with the qualifying bet. So Betano will give us a refund up to $1,500 as a free bet if our first bet loses. So we're going to go ahead to the DutchMatcher, and as always, this is going to input our parameters, our filters for us automatically. So this is pulled in the best pairs of odds between Betano and Pinnacle for this risk-free bet. Okay, so as we can see, the best risk-free bet rating right now is 45%. It's okay, but it's not amazing. And this is the kind of offer where you really want to get the best possible ratings since it is such a big offer, so $1,500. So what I would recommend doing, you could go ahead and take this 45% if you like, or even this 44% or 37%. But if you want to squeeze every last bit of juice out of this offer, I would recommend setting up a notification so that we will text you if anything really good comes up in the DutchMatcher. So what I would say is let's go save a filter, Betano Pinnacle risk-free bet, that's all fine. And we're going to just say minimum rating here, so 47, right? So we're only interested in any risk-free bet ratings over 47%, right? That means we're going to make over 47% of the $1,500 as risk-free profit. And let's put in max odds of 5 here because we don't want any crazy long odds where we're going to need a huge hedge bet, all right? So go ahead, click SMS DutchMatcher notifications, and we will contact you if anything good comes up here. Just say save filter for that one. Okay, cool. So the best rated pair for now is the Browns and Bears. Let's just go and double check those odds and go ahead as if we were going to place that bet. So we go into Betano. We would search for this Bears game. Here we go. We've got the Browns and the Bears. So as we can see there, plus 310 money line, that is the same as 4.1. You can switch your American and decimal toggle here as you like, but we got plus 310 on the Browns, as it says. And then over in Pinnacle, we've got minus 353 on the Bears. And just like the other one, you can toggle your decimal American there. You can toggle it in here on Betano, whichever one you prefer. Let's keep it American for now. So you just open the calculator, set your bet amount to $1,500, and you just go ahead and follow these instructions. So $1,500 on the Cleveland Browns at plus 310. So you'd go plus 310, you would go 1,500, and then you would hedge that bet on Pinnacle, and it's asking us to stake 3,974. Now, of course, that is the total, strictly speaking, of 5,500. We've said that you need a bankroll of 4,500 for this offer. So that's why I'm kind of talking about this Dutching notifications where you can actually save a filter and you could have, for example, max odds, plus 300. So you could actually even say max odds plus 300 here, because whenever those odds are slightly lower, you will find that, you know, for example, if it was say 200 and minus 220, you're not going to need such a large hedge bet amount here, okay? So, you know, we kind of budget that your hedge bet is going to be less than 3,000 here if you're in a pinch. If you've got a massive bankroll, then obviously you want to just do the highest risk-free bet rating here. Okay, cool. So let's say that you've placed your qualifying bet. I just want to actually add one tip here, okay? So Betano actually add a parlay bonus. So if you place a parlay with 3 legs, they actually add a 5% bonus. So if you really want to juice as much value out of this as possible, here's what I would do, okay? So we'd go onto the Parlay Matcher, we'd set it to risk-free bet, and we'd set the primary bookmaker to Betano, secondary to Pinnacle for now. And you can see we've got this 3-way parlay offered here, okay? And it's given us a risk-free bet rating of 48%, which is better than anything that we saw on the standard DutchMatcher. All right, so the beauty of this one is that Betano would actually pay out odds higher than plus 533 because of the 5% bonus, okay? So let's just walk through how this would work. So let's open that in the calculator. So the parlay odds are not actually quite 6.33. They're actually technically 6.596, okay? So we can actually update that. And there you can see that gives us an extra bit of profit, okay? So 781 locked in, and technically that free bet retention. You're probably going to make, as we'll see in the next step, you're probably going to make higher than 70% on the free bet. So we're going to put that to 75 for now. So you can actually realistically lock in about $850 from this offer if you do the first bet on a parlay. So let's just walk through how you would place this parlay. And it's worth noting that these hedge bets for the parlay are very large in this case. So you need to have a larger bankroll. You need to have about $7,000 here at least to hedge, more like $8,000. So if you're unfamiliar with the Parlay Matcher, here's how we would set it up for risk-free bet mode. This thing's pulled in these events. So you've got the Chargers at the Eagles on December 9th. You've got the Bengals at the Ravens on December 14th. And then you get the Seahawks at the Colts on December 14th in the evening. So the Parlay Matcher always pulls in these legs so that they don't overlap, so that none of these games are overlapping on each other, okay? So the reason that we do that is so that you can hedge each leg sequentially. So you would hedge the first leg on Pinnacle, then only if that bet wins, then you move on to the second leg and hedge the second leg, and only if that wins on Betano, then you move on to the third leg, right? As soon as any of those legs lose, then you're finished. You don't need to hedge the subsequent legs, okay? Because your parlay's out and your money will all be in Pinnacle. So let me just walk through an example of how you would go through that parlay. So let's go ahead and save that parlay. So we're just going to call it Betano risk-free bet. Betano risk-free bet $1,500, okay? So let's save that parlay, and we're going to head over to the saved parlays and say view saved parlays and load it in. So it's loaded up the parlay. On Betano, we would go ahead and place this 3-way parlay, which is Chargers, Eagles under 42.5, Bengals, Ravens under 52.5, and Seahawks, Colts under 43.5. Okay, so this is a 3-way parlay of odds 1.88 times 1.82 times 1.85. Of course, we've got this extra 5% boost on 3-way parlay, so we've bumped up the odds of the parlay to 6.596. So we've placed the 3-way parlay on Betano, and then we would hedge the first leg on Pinnacle. Okay, so we're only hedging one leg at a time here. That's the only way that you can actually hedge parlays properly. We would go ahead, it's telling us to hedge 1,141.45 on Pinnacle on the over 42.5 at 2.07. So let's say that we went ahead and we hedged 1,141.45. Okay, that's great. If it loses, then you're done. You don't have to hedge anything else. That's great. You've actually already made your $846 profit there, okay? If it wins, however, then you have to hedge the next leg. So now you have to move on to the second leg, hedge 2,128 on the over 52.5, okay, which is the second leg of your Betano parlay, on the over 52.5 on Pinnacle, all right? Now, there's a slight issue here that some odds can kind of drift slightly. Let's say that goes up to 2.15, then that means you'll make actually slightly more if the odds kind of come in slightly. So let's say it goes 2.02. That means the odds are obviously slightly worse and you're going to make slightly less. You can see you make 750 here. let's just assume that they're now 2.1. So let's go ahead and wager 2,138.78 on that over 52.5 at 2.1 on Pinnacle. Just like before, if that loses, great, you're finished. You'll have made 836 in this example, and this calculator takes care of every single possible outcome. All right, so that's great. And if it wins, you very simply move on to the final step. This is a big one. You have to hedge 4,277 on this over 43.5 on Pinnacle. All right, so 4277. If it wins on Betano, then you've won your parlay because all 3 legs have won. If it loses in Betano, then it will have won in Pinnacle, and this big $4,200 bet will have won in Pinnacle. So in that case, you'd be down your $1,500 on Betano, you'd have made $1,200 on Pinnacle, and you would also get your $1,500 refund in, which we can convert into $1,100.25 here. Okay, so you're still going to be up around $800 no matter what happens. So that is the qualifying bet. All right, that's how we'd recommend placing your first bet. If you want to keep it really simple, just do a single bet. Don't even worry about the parlay matcher for now. If you don't want to, if you don't have the bankroll especially, just stick to these simple games. But definitely, I would definitely recommend using that tip, which is to set up a Dutching notification in order to extract as much value from that offer as possible to get nice high free bet ratings. All right, let's move on to the free bet stage. Okay, so if your bet loses with Betano, they give you a $1,500 free bet. If your bet wins, you don't need to worry about this step. You will have already made around $750. Our calculator is set up so that no matter if you win on Betano or if you lose and they refund you $1,500, you will still be up the same amount regardless. All right, but let's assume that the bet lost and they've given you this $1,500 free bet. So they say in their terms, we talked about this earlier, that you have to place that free bet on a selection of 3 legs or more. All right, there's this conflict because it says 3+ selection here, and in the other terms it said 2+. We're going to assume it's 3+ for now. Okay, so this is where you go back on the parlay matcher, and we've got our bet type set to free bet, and we go Betano and Pinnacle. So notice before it was on risk-free bet, right? This time it's on free bet mode. And as we can see, we can lock in around about 75% from this free bet. So let's pull up this one as an example. So if you're going this one here, you go $1,500, which is your free bet amount. Now, interestingly, I've looked at these terms and you can still get the parlay boost even whenever you're placing a free bet. Okay, so you actually get an extra 5% on your winnings from that free bet. All right, so this was actually Gabriel that pointed this out. So on our Discord, he said that they have this bonus that isn't factored into the hedge. So if the parlay hits, you make an extra $400 to $500. All right, so he's just kind of, so he hasn't updated the parlay odds like us. He just kind of treated it like an extra bonus. If the Betano bet wins, then you make an extra like $400 to $500. If you want to do it like we do it, we kind of update the parlay odds manually here. It's also worth seeing actually here, Bob, for example, this is why the Discord is really good, because you get real user feedback of how this offer really works. So he had no problem placing the initial $1,500 qualifying bet, but he couldn't put the whole $1,500 on one bet for the free bet, which is completely fine. You can break it up into multiple bets. So I was asking, you know, can you break the free bet into multiple smaller bets and use up that $1,500 balance, you know, in bits? And yes, you can. Just bear in mind, you have to use all the bet credits within 72 hours. Okay, so 3 days. So we're back in the parlay hedge calculator. It's pulled in this 3-way parlay. And just like before, okay, this thing understands that we're now using a free bet. It's not a risk-free bet. And let's go ahead and actually update the parlay odds as well. So what I've done there, I've just added 5% to the winnings, okay? So I've essentially taken away the stake amount here. This is how much that you are going to win. And then I've just added it back on to get it back into decimal. But these are the boosted odds, okay? So considering the 5% boost, so that is going to give us 6.596. Okay, so that's actually getting you $1,169 profit there from your $1,500 free bet, which is actually 78%. Okay, so pretty damn good. So just like before, here's how you would do it. You place the 3-way bet on Betano using your $1,500 free bet. Or if you like, you can just maybe place $500 of it. You know, as I said, as Bob said, you can split it up into multiple smaller bets. Okay, you can very much do that. Let's just say we're placing the full $1,500 for now. Whenever Bob was doing this offer, he was placing it on single bets. I think that Betano will probably offer much larger limits for accumulator bets or parlays rather than straight bets. So I think you might be fine placing this in one bet. But just like before, we would save the parlay. Let's call that one Betano free bet $1,500. Save the parlay. And just like before, we're going to load in this free bet parlay, and we would place this three-way parlay on Betano. Okay, so we're going to go under 42.5, under 52.5, under 43.5 on each of these games respectively. So it's a three-way parlay, and just like before, we're going to hedge each leg sequentially using our own cash on Pinnacle. Okay, so you're going to be placing that three-way parlay, and then you're going to be just hedging the first leg for now. So let's say that we hedge 1092. Okay, great. If that loses, fantastic. We've just made 1,169 from our free bet. We'd lost about, say, 300 or so, or 400 from our qualifying bet. So you're going to make around 800, 850, give or take, from this offer regardless. All right. If it wins, then you just move on to the next step, just like before, 2037. If that loses, great, you're done. If it wins, then you move on to the third step. Okay, so you got 4094. And then if that wins, then great, your Betano bet has won, parlay has won. All right, if it loses, then all your money will be in Pinnacle. But no matter what happens, the key thing to understand here is no matter what happens, whether your qualifying bet wins in Betano or if it loses and then you have to cash out the free bet refund on three-way parlays, you're going to be up the same amount, around $850 regardless.